Okay, so check your calendars. It is Tuesday, January 27th, 2026.
Right.
And if you've been following the news out of New Delhi today, you might be feeling a sense of déjà vu or maybe just disbelief.
It really has been a marathon.
Yeah.
I honestly wasn't sure we'd actually see this day.
We are talking about a headline that has been, nearly 20 years in the making. The breaking news is, and I mean breaking in the sense that people have been waiting for this since the first iPhone was released,
Pretty much, yeah.
is that India and the European Union have officially concluded negotiations on their comprehensive economic partnership,
The FTA, as they call it.
the FTA. But for us, this is the deal that, potentially decides the price of the car you buy in 5 years, the label on the shirt you're wearing right now, and
Honestly.
the shape of the geopolitical map for the next decade.
That is not an exaggeration. We're looking at documents that were finally exchanged today at the India-EU summit in New Delhi.
Okay.
But before we get too excited, we have to look at the timeline, because the context here is everything.
Right, because this didn't just pop up overnight. This isn't some snap decision.
Oh, far from it.
Mm.
This negotiation started way back in 2007.
2007.
Think about that world. No Instagram, no Uber. The global financial crisis hadn't even hit yet. Talks started. Then they stalled. Then they just sat on a shelf for years.
Because of huge disagreements,
Yep.
right? Tariffs and things.
Massive disagreements.
Mm.
They only really picked up steam again in 2022. So for the negotiators to stand up today and say, we have a deal, is a really significant shift.
It's the ultimate will they, won't they of the trade world. But let's be real for a second. We see these headlines all the time. Deal signed, partnership concluded. Usually it's a lot of fluff and very little substance. So our mission today is to strip that away. We've got the India-EU Comprehensive Economic Partnership and Trade Framework in front of us.
What do you do?
We need to figure out, is this actually a big deal or is it just a photo op?
It is definitely a big deal, and primarily because of the sheer scale. We are talking about a few niche products here. This deal covers somewhere between 96 to 99% of tariffs by value between the two sides.
Wait, hold on. 96 to 99%? That seems incredibly high for a first pass agreement.
It is.
Usually countries keep a lot more sensitive stuff off the table.
And that's why this took nearly 20 years. They spent all that time haggling over every single percentage point. It's a massive overhaul.
Wow.
However, and this is the big casualty, however, while the handshake happened today, January 27th, we need to manage expectations immediately. Nothing changes tomorrow morning
Because of the bureaucracy.
because of a process called legal scrubbing.
Okay, legal scrubbing sounds like something you do to a kitchen floor. I'm guessing it's just lawyers billing extra hours to argue over commas.
It's a bit more high stakes than that. I mean, remember, the European Union isn't one country.
Right, it's a block.
It's a block. This text has to be translated into 24 official languages. And the legal definition of, say, synthetic fiber in the French text has to match the German text perfectly.
Oh, I see.
If there's even a slight ambiguity, you open yourself up to massive lawsuits at the WTO 5 years down the road.
So it's less about grammar and more about bulletproofing the treaty.
Precisely. So because of that whole translation and ratification process, this deal likely won't officially enter into force until 2027.
2027. But the markets, they're pricing this in today.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
The markets are efficient.
So why now? I mean, India has historically been pretty protectionist. We all know the Make in India slogan. Why open the doors to European competition now?
It's a convergence of anxieties, really.
Anxiety.
For India, it's about diversification. We're living in a world of supply chain shocks. India wants to be a central node in global value chains, an alternative to China, frankly.
To do that, you need access to wealthy markets.
You can't just sell to yourself.
Yeah,
Exactly. And for the EU, they're looking at India's massive population, a growing middle class, and they see a market they literally cannot afford to ignore.
And they want to de-risk their own supply chains, too.
They do. They need a partner in Asia that isn't a geopolitical adversary. It's a classic case of, I need you and you need me.
Okay, let's get into the weeds then. Winners and losers. Because in every trade deal, someone pops the champagne and someone else starts sweating. From the Indian perspective, what's the big headline win?
If you want the immediate shot in the arm for the Indian economy, you have to look at textiles, apparel, and leather.
Right, the export boom section. But isn't the textile market already saturated? I feel like we've been talking about Indian textiles for 50 years.
We have, but they've been fighting with one hand tied behind their back. Indian exporters were paying duties to get their shirts and shoes into Europe.
While competitors like Bangladesh or Vietnam had better access.
Exactly. They had better deals or lower labor costs. Under this agreement, EU tariffs on Indian textiles, apparel, leather, and footwear are being eliminated.
Completely eliminated.
Yes, and for the vast majority, about 90% of product lines, that duty elimination is immediate.
Immediate is a strong word in trade deals.
It is.
Usually they phase these things in over a decade to protect local industries, so why the rush here?
Because these are labor-intensive sectors. We are talking about millions and millions of jobs. Cities like Tirupur for knitwear or Agra for leather, these are huge employment hubs.
So the government pushed for it. They need jobs now, not in 10 years.
That's the logic.
Okay, but here's the skeptic in me. When we hear about these wins, it usually means big conglomerates get richer. Does this actually help the person running a small loom in a Tier 2 city?
That's a valid concern. And usually, the big players eat up the quota. But this deal has a specific cutout for gems and jewelry involving MSMEs.
Micro, small, and medium enterprises.
Right. Indian diamonds and handicrafts get immediate zero-duty access. And since that sector is so fragmented and relies on smaller artisans, the benefits should, in theory, trickle down faster.
In theory, doing a lot of heavy lifting there, but I see the logic. What about pharma? India wants to be the pharmacy of the world.
This helps cement that title. The EU is eliminating tariffs on Indian generic drugs and specialty chemicals. But the bigger win is really about integration.
How so?
If Europe needs active pharmaceutical ingredients, the raw stuff to make medicine buying from India just got cheaper and a lot easier, it's about making India the default option.
Okay, so India ships out clothes, shoes, diamonds, medicine. That sounds great for New Delhi. But the Europeans aren't doing this out of charity. What are they getting in return? What's about to flood into the Indian market?
Flood might be too strong a word, but the landscape is definitely going to change. And the headline here, without a doubt, is automobiles.
Finally, the fun stuff. We always hear about how expensive European cars are in India because of the taxes.
Right. Historically, India has had tariffs on imported cars that are just eye-watering. Over 100% in many cases.
So you're buying one car for yourself and another for the government.
You basically were, yes.
So does this deal slash that to zero? Are we going to see brand new German sedans for the price of a hatchback?
No, and this is where we have to be really careful with the headlines. India is cutting those tariffs down to approximately 10%.
Which is a massive drop from 100.
It's huge. However, it is not happening overnight.
There's always a catch.
There are two catches, actually. First, the reduction happens over a 5-year period.
Okay.
And second, and this is crucial, it's likely going to be a quota-based concession at first.
A quota. Explain that. What does that mean for cars?
It means the first, say, 5,000 or maybe 10,000 luxury vehicles imported in a year might come in at that lower tax rate.
And car number 10,001?
That one might get hit with the old higher tariff.
Oh, that creates a frenzy. It forces the European manufacturers to fight for market share early in the year.
Exactly. And it protects the Indian market from being totally overwhelmed. It lets the Indian government say, look, we opened the door, but we put a chain lock on it.
But even with a chain lock, I imagine the Indian car manufacturers, Tata, Mahindra, are not thrilled about this.
They're certainly nervous. This is the tension point. Domestic assemblers are going to face really stiff competition on the higher end. It's simple cost arbitrage.
If a European luxury SUV becomes 30% cheaper, the local premium models have to get better or get cheaper.
In the short term, yes. The long-term argument is that it forces innovation. Iron sharpens iron and all that.
Right. What about wine? I read something about alcohol duties dropping drastically.
Yes, wine and spirits were another major sticking point. India is dropping duties on European wine, which were around 150%.
150.
Now, down to eventually about 20 to 30%.
That is going to shake up the beverage aisle. But again, are we worried about the local vineyards in Nashik?
They'll face pressure, similar to the car situation. But the logic is that the market for wine in India is growing so fast that there's probably room for both.
Not necessarily a zero-sum game.
Not necessarily, no.
Fair enough. Now, we've talked a lot about physical stuff you can put in a shipping container. But we live in a digital world. Modern trade isn't just about crates on a dock. What about services?
That's where the future of the economy lives, absolutely. And interestingly, this was an area where India played hardball. The agreement includes significant commitments to liberalize trade in services, IT, consulting, finance.
But the key word I saw was mobility.
Mobility, exactly. It's about the movement of professionals.
You mean visas?
It's about making it easier for skilled professionals and students to move between the regions. This is not like the H-1B situation in the U.S., which we know can be a real mess.
With lotteries and caps.
Right. This EU deal focuses more on mutual recognition of qualifications.
Which means?
It means if you have an accounting degree from a recognized Indian institute, the goal is for European regulators to accept that without making you take 3 years of ESSER exams. It reduces the friction.
That is huge. That effectively integrates the labor pools.
It helps Indian IT firms compete in the EU not just on cost, but on presence. They can send their project leads to Berlin or Paris much more easily.
It really deepens the relationship. And speaking of deep connections, I noticed a sidebar in the documents about a security and defense partnership. That feels heavy for a trade deal.
You can't separate economics from security anymore. Not in 2026. This framework signals that India and the EU are aligning their strategic interests.
Is this about Russia? Is it about China?
It's about both, and neither, explicitly. It's about supply chain resilience. If you're going to rely on India for your pharmaceuticals, you need to ensure the region is stable. And for India, it's another way to diversify away from Russian military hardware.
So it's a geopolitical pivot masquerading as a trade deal.
In many ways, yes.
That is a fascinating layer. Now, you mentioned a phrase earlier that caught my eye. You called this a living agreement. Is the document breathing? Is it AI? What is that?
In a metaphorical sense, yes. The old way of doing trade deals was static. You'd sign a book of rules, and that book stayed the same for 30 years.
Which doesn't work when technology moves so fast.
It moves too fast. AI regulation, data privacy, green tech. These things change every 6 months. A static deal signed today would be obsolete by 2028.
So this is designed to be updated.
Exactly. It has built-in review mechanisms, joint committees, regulator consultations. It's not set in stone.
It's like a software subscription. You don't just buy it, you subscribe to the updates.
That is the perfect analogy. It's a governance-as-a-service model between two massive economies.
But let's be cynical for a moment. Usually when people leave things for future review, it's because they couldn't agree and just wanted to go home. What got left out?
You are spot on. The living agreement is often a parking lot for disagreements. The biggest one, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBM.
Carbon tax. Right. Break that down for us. Why is that such a headache for India?
The EU has a law that taxes imports based on how much carbon was emitted to produce them. But India's economy is still heavily reliant on coal.
So Indian steel and aluminum exporters see this as a protectionist barrier.
They see it as a way to penalize them for being a developing economy. It wipes out their profit margin. They fought hard to get an exemption.
Did they get it?
No. And this is the friction. They moved the issue to technical consultations.
Ah, the diplomatic equivalent of let's take this offline.
Correct. It shows that while the deal is concluded, the negotiation on these high-stakes issues, how climate policy and trade intersect, that continues forever.
So the deal isn't the end of the conversation, it's just a new way to have the conversation.
That's a great way to put it. And it leads to a broader question. We used to think of these as finalized rule books. But in a world where technology and climate rules are rewriting everything, maybe a finished deal is impossible.
We've just moved to a world of permanent negotiation.
I think so. The relationship is defined by how well you manage the updates, not the initial download.
So let's zoom out. We're here in January 2026. This thing has been in the works since 2007.
A historic milestone, no doubt about it.
To summarize, India gets a huge boost for its export economy. Textiles, leather, gems, chemicals, a jobs creator.
Yes. And it diversifies their market risk.
And the EU gets access to the massive Indian consumer base for its cars, machinery, luxury items, and a strategic partner in Asia.
Precisely.
But, and this is the big takeaway, nothing changes tomorrow.
Right. Signed today, legally scrubbed for a year, probably active in 2027. And even then, the tariff cuts on things like cars are phased in. It's a slow burn.
And we have to keep an eye on those technical consultations about the carbon tax.
That could still be a bumpy ride, but it's better they're talking at the same table than shouting from across the ocean.
Well, there you have it. The India-EU Comprehensive Economic Partnership. 20 years in the making. It's messy, it's complicated, and it's a living document.
It's a brave new world for trade.
Keep an eye on those car prices in a few years, and maybe check the label on the next shirt you buy. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.